will pull the base image, right? So base image, it can be anything, right? Like Ubuntu, Ubuntu, CentOS, okay, Amazon Linux OS. So these are the base image, right? So in that base image, you can means that base image will be very lightweight, right? There will be no any extra dependencies in that image, right? So the purpose is that you should have the base image with minimum, with no dependencies, right? You can custom that base image with your required dependencies only, so that your code is not become bulkier or heavy, so that it will be processed in a less time, since it will be a lightweight, right? So what will be the from contains, right? From contains, it will pull the base image, right? It will pull the base image. Okay, pull the base image. Okay, so let's say some Ubuntu, right? Ubuntu, and you can also download the Python image. Okay, I will tell what this Python image is. Okay, so you can also give in the from instruction uh, the Ubuntu or Python is okay. So Python is also there, means it will be a ready-made environment for your code to run. Okay, so this is not the base image. It will give the environment. Okay, I will come to this point. Okay, in the distillers image. So when your Ubuntu image will be downloaded. Ubuntu image will be downloaded. Okay, downloaded from the where? From the Docker Hub. Yes. Okay. So this is for your Docker from file, and this from field, okay, this from instruction is mandatory in your Docker file. Okay. So this base image, right? This base image is required to add your dependency, right? To copy your code, and it is mandatory field, mandatory instruction. Okay. Okay, so this is about the first instruction, right? Sorry, from instruction. It is a mandatory instruction. Okay. So the next instruction is the run instruction, right? Okay. Next instruction is run instruction. So what run is instruction is all about? So it executes the command within the container, okay, during the build time, right? So whatever the your environment is required for your to install the dependencies, right? So if you have any Python dependencies, okay, so to execute those Python dependencies, you need to run some command, right? So uh, let's say you have dependency for Pythons, then your dependency will be the Python application, Python software should be installed. Okay. After then and then only you will be able to execute that code in the Python code. So you can installation means you can give the commands like to install the Python. Okay. Uh, in this run instruction. Okay. So what run command does is it informs the Docker that container listens on this container listens on specified network port at runtime. Okay, so it does not publish the port. Okay, and it is for documentation only. Okay, so it is not the mandatory that you should give this instruction. Okay, so whatever this copy, add, and expose. Okay, these are the let's say it is not mandatory instructions. It is for documentation only. Okay, so it informs the Docker that container listens on specified port at runtime. Okay, and it is for documentation only. Okay, it does not publish the port. Okay, And the next instruction is CMD. This is very important. So entry point is also important. Okay. This is also whenever you run image only. Okay. Whenever you run Docker image, right? Whenever you run Docker image. But so if it is also used when Docker image only, okay, so what is the difference between command and entry point, right? The main difference is, okay, in the entry point, it is useful for setting a default executable for initializing the container environment, right? So I will tell you, okay, so what is it? It is useful for setting a default, setting a default executable for your for initializing the container environment. So what this statement's meaning is, let's say in the example, let's say entry point. Okay, so entry point taking the Flask. Okay, so Flask is the framework for the Python. Okay, framework for the Python. Okay, and then final step will be run the run the Python. huh, Run the Python application, right? Okay, so these are the steps for the Python application deployment on EC2. Okay, so first we'll see this deployment on EC2. This is without Docker, currently without Docker for this. Okay, so hello friends. Today's topic is welcome to my YouTube channel. Today's topic is the Docker file. What is the Docker file, right? So earlier we have briefly seen about in earlier sessions we have briefly seen about the Docker, okay, Docker images and how are it is running, right? Overall about the Docker file. So today uh, is Docker file, right? So what is Docker file is we can add in Docker file we can add multiple instructions, right? We can add multiple instructions, multiple instructions, okay, instructions, okay, and we can add multiple instructions and we can build the process, right? And build the process. Build the process means here whatever the code you have, okay, whatever the code, and you can build that code into one image, right? And whatever the necessary dependencies required for that code uh, clubbed into one package, and you just create the one image from it, right? So this is the one process in the Docker file, okay. So what we have seen is, let's say from Docker Hub, right? We have already seen one Docker Hub, right? Let's say this is our Docker Hub. Okay. So here there are many images, right? Let's say Ubuntu image, right? Let's say uh, let's say CentOS image, right? So this is Docker Hub. We have earlier seen this, right, in earlier session. Okay. So from the Docker Hub, okay, in the Docker file, what we have seen is, let's say this is a Docker file. Okay, let's say this is Docker file. Okay, so Docker file. So let's say in here there are multiple instructions, like, right. Let's say some instruction, let's say is from. There are multiple instructions from run. Okay, so these are so from in this. Okay, so in the from field, okay, there we can have the image, right? Let's say if you have Ubuntu image here, okay, so it will take from the Docker Hub, this prompt field, okay. We'll see these instructions in more detail, okay, after I just after this means after this topic, okay. So let's say at this point of view, just consider that there are multiple instructions here, okay. So one field is from, so from this image, the base image will be taken by from the Docker Hub, right? In the earlier session, we have seen that. So what we have seen that is we'll create one custom image, right? So how will be creating that custom image? By building the Docker file, right? By building the Docker file. So let's say this is the build process, okay? Build, right? When you build this Docker file, you will create the one image, right? Let's say custom image, but don't say in the interview that is custom image, right? It can be base image, okay? So just one image will be created, okay, when you build the Docker file, right? And when you run that Docker, when you run that Docker file, Docker image, what happens is you create a container, right? Let's say this is our container, right? So when you run this build image, when you run the build image from the Docker file, right? So a, a container will be created, right? So this is my container, and in the container, my application code is running, right? So this is the way the process flow is there, right? Okay, sorry for my pending. It is not up to the mark. Okay, so this is the process flow. First, you will create the Docker file. Then, so whatever the input for from field is there, it will be taken the base image from the Docker Hub. Okay, no, and not necessarily the base image. It can taken some distillers image also. So I will talk about later the distillers images and so. So it will take the input from the Docker for the base image or any custom image, okay, and when you have certain instructions in the Docker file, okay, after building those Docker file, you will be getting the image, right? And when you run that image, no, a container is created, okay, that will execute your actual code, right? So this is the brief process about the Docker file, okay. So now we'll see the whatever the instructions in the Docker file. Okay, so let's create one new file. Okay, MS Paint. So what we will see is now the actual field in the Docker file instructions. Instructions. Okay, so instructions, right? So what is the first instruction is? The first instruction in the Docker file is from command. Okay, within the container, okay, command within the container during the build time, okay. So it is just about the building process, okay. It is just the building process of your image, okay. So what is the example is, let's say if you have Ubuntu, you are using the Ubuntu as a base image. So in the Ubuntu you will be uh, using the apt libraries, okay, apt get install. So let's say apt get install apt get install python, है ना, right? So you will be running python, you will be installing the Python software from this command. Okay, so whatever the infrastructure, whatever the environment you will be needing, you will be giving those command in the run instruction. Okay, so the next instruction is the copy. Okay, so copy is nothing but the code. It copies the code from the same location files and directories from the host machine. Okay, into container file system in the same instance. So what happens is, uh, if you have your code ready, right? So you will have that code be ready. So where you are running your container, okay? So that container, so that application, you will be requiring to copy the code, right? So it should be means in the present directory, right? So it will copy the code from the same location, files and directories. Okay, so it copies the code from files and directories from the host machine. Okay, host machine into container file system where your container will be running, right? Where it will be copied container file system. Okay, in the same instance, let's say if we are talking about the EC2 instance, the same instance. Okay, there is one more instruction is there, that is add. So add has extra feature come in comparison with the copy command, right? What add does is it has extra feature like extracting the tar files, right? Extracting the tar files, extra features like extracting the tar, extracting tar files, and we can add URL also, right? We can add URL also. Let's say suppose your code is in S3 bucket. Okay, so from the S3 bucket you can give that URL also, right? So S3 bucket URL you can give into this add instruction. Okay, we can give URL from the S3 bucket, 3 bucket where your code is, right? So this is the more extra feature in add, right? One more instruction is, let's say, expose, right? Expose. What command does is it executes whenever you run Docker image only. Okay. So when you build your image, right? Okay, sorry. The command instruction is whenever you run the Docker image. Okay. So till this file, okay. So till these instructions, okay, from run, copy, add, expose, your Docker file will be build. Okay. Your Docker file building process will be done and your image will be created, right? But you need to also run that image, right? So who will provide that running instructions? So that will be done by command. Okay, so CMD is the instruction. It executes whenever you run the Docker image only. Okay, and so let's write it down here. Executes whenever you run Docker image only, right? Docker image only. Okay. So in the above instruction, the Docker Docker image will be created, right? So you need to execute that Docker image, right? So command instruction can do that purpose, right? And one more thing about command, it provides the default command to run when a container starts. Okay, and it can override. Okay, override can be provided at the runtime. Okay, so I will let's write here, it overrides the override override can be provided at runtime. So what this statement's meaning is, let's say if you give, I am giving some sample. Okay. Okay. So what work directory is? It sets the working directory. Sets the working directory for subsequent instructions. Okay. Let's say if you have given the app. Okay. If you have given the uh, work directory as app. Okay. Let me correct it. Instructions. Okay. So let's say you have given work dir, let's say work directory as app. Okay, work directory as app. So all the following instructions will be executed relative to this directory, right? So your code will be copying to this directory, right? All the following instructions, when you are setting this work directory as an app, then all following instruction will be executed relative to this directory. This is the work dir instruction. Okay. So I hope this is very clear, right? So let's see now. We'll see how the code will be executed without the Docker. Okay, first we will be understand whether we'll first we'll check without Docker how the code is runs is. Okay, so let me create one image paint. Okay, so what are the steps in the Python? Let's say in the Python application deployment, right? Python application deploy on EC2. Okay. So what is the first step? First step is create the EC2, right? EC2 instance. Create EC2 instance. Okay. What is the second step is you clone the repo. I will tell you what this is. Then third is install the Python. Install the Python, right? Then what will be the next step? Then it will be your install the dependencies required for your code, require your for Python code for dependency. Okay, so sudo su hyphen, right? So let's check what are there in the ls hyphen lrth. There is nothing, no files is there, right? Currently. So what we do is we will clone this repository, from the GitHub, right? This is the ready-made project we have. Okay, so we will just clone this project into our EC2 instance. Okay, so go to this code and take this copy URL and gives this git clone and the URL of that project. Just execute. Okay, so what it is telling is that git command is not found. So this command to run, right? So you should have the git software first. It should be installed first, and then only you can able to run this command git clone, right? So first install the git sudo yum install git hyphen y. Okay, so this installs the git software. So it will take some time. Let's wait. Okay, so your git is executed, right? Now you can execute that git clone command, right? So I have cloned that particular project, that Python Flask project, into this EC2, right? How can we verify? Just check by ls-lits. You can see here this project, okay? So just cd, okay? And here you are having your complete project ready, right? Whatever you have seen in the GitHub, right? So all the files are there, right? Along with the business logic, along with the dependency file, right? So all the files are have been downloaded. Okay. So we have the Python application, right? So you will be needing Python, right? Python application, if you need to run, you should have the environment there. Environment of the Python should be there, right? So we need to install first the Python, right? So let's execute the Python sudo m install. So Python 3. So this Python 3 is the software, right? Okay, so Python 3 is the software and pip is the environment. Okay, so pip is the environment for this application to run. Okay, so just execute this command. This will this will download this will install the Python software for your EC2 instance. Okay, so your Python is installed, right? Python version, let's say, okay, let's maybe will be Python 3 version. Yeah, you can see now this Python 3 is version there, right? Python 3. Okay, so Python environment is also ready, right? So what is the next step? What is the next step? Clone, create the EC2 instance done, clone the repo is done, install the Python is done. What is the next step now? Install the dependency. Okay, so class dependency we need to install before we actually run the Python code, right? So let's run the Python dependency, right? So I already told you that we will this pip3 will be environment to running the Python code. Okay, so pip3 we have the dependency over here, that this requirement.txt. So we need to execute uh, this file with the Python, right? Python executable command. So pip3 install requirement.txt, right? Just install. Okay. Okay. It is you are going to install a package literally named requirement.txt which cannot exist. Okay. Consider using the -r flag. Okay. So it is asking us to use the -r flag before install. Okay. So let's give -r and try to run. Yeah, it is now running your dependencies. Okay, so this way you have installed your dependencies. So now my Flask is also installed, right? The dependency, and my Python is also installed, right? So now I can able to run now the Python code. Okay, so how can you run the Python code? This is the your app.py. This is your business logic where it resides in this file. Okay, so this Python Flask will be run on the 5000 port. Okay, so just run this app.py python 3 app.py. py, right? Okay, so our code has executed, right? And here we can see that this is the 5000 IP where your application will be run. Okay, so copy this public IP. Okay, copy this public IP and try to access with the 5000 port. Application deploy on Docker now. Okay, so how to deploy from the Docker? This the same application, right? So first, what we'll be needing is the base image, right? The base image, right? Ubuntu, right? Then what we'll be requiring is install Python, right? Install Python. Then third step will be install dependency. Okay. And then what will be fourth step? Then copy the code, right? Copy the code. And then fifth step will be run the code, right? So what my Docker file says, how to map this with respect to Docker file. Okay. So we'll try to, okay. So we'll try to, so first the requirement is to install the base image, that is Ubuntu, right? So how we can download, means how we can install the Ubuntu, that with respect to the from, right? We have already seen this. Let's say from Ubuntu, right? Then what is the next step, right? The next step is to install Python and the dependencies, right? So installing Python and dependency, that will be coming from that, from which command instruction we can give, from the run instruction, right? Run. So run apt. Since we are using the Ubuntu as a base image, okay, so uh, apt package will be supporting to the Ubuntu base image, right? So that is why we are running here apt install Python. Earlier in the, when we are deploying without Docker, that time we have used Amazon Linux, okay. So there yum directory, yum package is used to install the packages, right? So run apt install Python, okay, and run dependency also, right? Run pip install dependency, okay. Then what is the next step is copy the code. So copy the code means it will copy the code from the existing directory. Let's say if your code is there in the present directory, okay. So it will copy the code into your this application directory, app directory. So this way you can copy the code from the present directory to app directory. Okay. And what is the fifth stage? That is run the command. So how will you run the command? Run the code from the command instruction, right? So command instruction Python 3 app.py. This is my business logic code. Okay. So this is the Docker file instructions, right? So these files, okay. So let's say from these files, okay, from these commands, okay, whatever the instructions are there, these instructions will be help to create the Docker image will be created, right? This image will be created during the build. So this is the build process, okay, these four commands. And this command instructions, right? This command instruction, this will, it will execute Execute means run the application, right? Run the application and container will be created. Will be created. Okay. So this is with respect to Docker file, how we can write your instructions from the Docker file with respect to these particular steps. Okay. So just we can go to this particular code, right? Okay. So if you go to this project, there is a, one file called Docker file, right? Just open this Docker file, and here you can see the Docker file, what actually it looks like. Okay. So we can see here all the required instructions like from, maintainer, okay, copy, work dir, run, expose, okay, command. So these are the instructions in the Docker file. We have already seen it. Okay. So here we can see that there is a from in the field, there is a Python. So uh, although we have seen in the Ubuntu as a base image, right, in our example, but we have taken it the Python. See, so you will be wondering how can be there a Python image is there. So this Python image is taking from the Docker Hub. Okay, so if you are taking the Ubuntu OS, okay, so Ubuntu OS, this will be the base image, right? There will be nothing in this base image, okay. But you are also having the Python image ready-made. Okay, so Ubuntu OS plus your Python installment. Okay, installing Python, that will be giving you the Python image, and that Python image is already uploaded to the Docker Hub, and we are fetching that Python image. So they give environment, not only dependencies, cause they will change the application to application, right? So this is giving as the environment for the Python. Okay, so ready-made Python image is giving. So this is Ubuntu OS plus installing the Python. Okay, so this type of image, okay, this type of image is called as distroless image. Okay, distroless image, distroless image. Okay, so let's say Ubuntu OS Python installed. So you can also create your image and upload it into the Docker Hub file, Docker Hub, so that in the future you can use that Python image for your future projects. Okay, so this way, this storage image is created in the Docker Hub. Okay, they give environment only, okay, not the dependencies, right? They will not, this storage image will not give you the dependencies, okay? This is very important statement. They will only give you the environment to run that dependencies, okay? So this we are directly, okay, so this is we are directly taking the Python image, okay? So just, okay, so copy, you also know that it will copy the your working directory content to the working directory files to the app directory. Work dir sets your application as a current working directory. Run this. This will install your dependencies, right? Expose is for documentation. It is for documentation that this app is running on 5000 port. And in the command instruction, you already know that this will give you the executable for your Python code. This is where your Python code will be actually running, right? And this will be your during the build time. So let's create first the uh, let's create the, okay, just control X, control C. Okay, so just create the just build the Docker file first. Okay, the first step is the our Docker file is ready, right? Just check. Yeah, we have already Docker file here, right? And we can build now this Docker file to generate the image. Okay, so what is the command? Docker build hyphen t. Let's say give anyone name that Python app. Okay, and our code is in the current directory, right? So all these my Docker file is in the current directory. So I am giving here it is the dot. Okay, dot is here means it is the present directory. Okay, so just try to execute. Oh, Docker command not found. Okay, that is a spelling mistake. What happening is okay, my terminal is hang. Just a minute. Let me refresh. Okay, so sudo su hyphen. Okay, so just let me correct the spelling mistake. Doc Docker. Okay, Docker command not found. Yeah. So what is this command is means? What this output is means that Docker is not running on our EC2 instance on this platform, right? So we need to install the Docker, right? So install the Docker first. Sudo yum install Docker hyphen y, right? So it will install the Docker. So Docker is the environment. Okay, on that environment you will be running your Docker file. When you will be run your Docker file, then image will be created, right? So it is running, installing the Docker. Okay, so Docker is installed. We need to start it, right? So let's start the Docker sudo systemctl start the Docker. Okay, just check whether Docker has been started or not. Status. Yes, it is active and running. So just build the Docker image. What was that command? Docker build, right? Docker build hyphen t. Okay, sorry. So, okay, yeah, yeah. Python app, right? Python app dot. So we are building our Docker file, okay, and it is in our current directory. That is where we are giving it the dot, okay, and Python application is the name we are giving to our image, okay. This dot means my Docker file is in the current directory. Just build this process. See, okay, right, right. My code is there in the, where is my, sorry, where is my code? Where is my Docker file? In this project, okay. So we need to go this to this project, then and then only we can able to run that build command, okay. So just execute. See here. Now the image is building, right? You can see the from instruction is getting executed here, right? It is taking some time. So this is the building process, okay? This you can see the building. So it is fetching the that image from the Docker Hub, okay? So you can see docker.io library Python 3. So it is taking this image from the Docker Hub, okay? It will take some time because it is the first time it is building the image, okay? And it is fetching from the Docker Hub. Okay, so we can see that our copy instruction has run, our working directory instruction is run. Our now currently it is running the uh, dependencies run pip install, right? So it has run our dependency also. So this way, this is the building process. Okay, this is the building process of the image. So let's check our image. So here we can see that our image is created. Okay, this Python app is the image name we have given during the build time of the Docker file. Okay, so our image is ready. Our Docker image is ready. So what is the next step now? What is the next step? Copy the code. What is the next step is run the code. So how we are running the code here during the Docker run, right? So we have already seen the port forwarding concept in the last session, right? So we'll be using that here. Docker run hyphen dt. dt is for detached terminal. Port forwarding hyphen p, right? So we are giving some any port 5000, let's say 9. Okay, and you need to give your image name here. The image name, the image which you just built before this command, right? Just the 2 minutes ago, you have built this image, no? Python app. So you are giving this app here. So this will create the container because you are running this image, this Python application image you are running. So by running this command, okay, this is where you are executing this the actual code. Okay, so by this command you are running this command. Okay, this executable environment you are running by uh, this command docker run. Okay, so the cmd instruction will be executed with this command. So cmd instructions will be executed by this command docker run. Okay, so execute. We can see that our container is created, right? Let's check our container docker ps, right? We can see our container is created and it is up 10 seconds ago. It is running on 5009. Here we can see the port forwarding. 5009 is forwarding to 5000 port. So this is our container ID. Copy this and just go to the docker exec, right? We are going into this container ID. How we are executing this container? Giving the container ID and bin bash. Okay. Here you can see that we are directly going into the application directory, right? How we are going to this application directory? Because you have given the working directory as a application directory, right? App directory. That is the reason why it is going to this app directory. Okay. Can run ls-lrts and you can see all your code is there in this container, right? So all your code is in this container. How it comes? Because of the copy, right? You have copied this whole code into this application directory, right? This way your code is comes into this particular container. Okay, so now just access the application, copy this public IP and give this.